Well, good morning. Welcome to episode 293 of Hobby Hotline. Special edition today. We get the return of Chris Carlin to Hobby Hotline and also joined by Chris Harris, Stale Gum. What's going on, guys?
We got Chris Power today, Danny. We're pretty proud to be here.
I know. I feel outmanned here. Chris Carlin, is it true that you've renegotiated and we're offering a player in return? Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's my first with Upper Deck, I was doing a lot of media and out there a bit more. And then when I started at Collectors, it was hey, we want you to focus on growing the team. And now my role has changed a little bit, where I'm going to be out there a bit more, which is awesome. So excited to be back in the fold here with Hobby Hotline crew and doing more things like this in the future.
And what is your current title? Do you mind me?
Yeah, I'm the director of customer experience for PSA. In the past, it was when I first started, it was kind of cool because I was working with PSA. PSA was started by a coin grading service called PCGS. So I was working a lot with them and helping their customer team grow. And but it was fascinating learning about that side of the hobby, coins and banknotes in particular. Both still really going strong. There's $1 million, just like there's $1 million cards, there's $1 million pennies. And it's pretty cool to see and learn that community as well. So, but now I'm back to what I know best and what I'm most passionate about. And that's trading cards and authenticated memorabilia.
And Chris Harris is the Batman of our crew. So we'll let him stay in the Batcave in his personal life and join us just on Hobby Hotline. How's that, Chris Harris?
Is that meant to be a compliment, or
it is a compliment? You're Batman. You just don't reveal your true self. Yeah. Good morning, Mad City Brew. Good morning, the Battery. Frank.
Hey Chris, how long have you've been in the hobby for years and years and years? Like, but when did you were like an influencer before there were influencers, right? Like,
I guess you can say that. I mean, I started Stale Gum back when I was still in the Air Force, and that was 25 years ago. But
yeah,
I don't think people even remember that. I mean, it was just a Samizdat newsletter back then.
Yeah.
I wish I kind of still had those too. So.
Oh yeah, that would be great for posterity.
Lost them to time. They're in the ether somewhere.
No, it's great seeing you again.
Yeah,
you got a lot of people in this morning, Chris. Philly Joe, TJ Online, Silver Fox, Jeff, Sal, Abel, Fal 5, Chris Ramsey.
Good. You got another Chris. That's good news.
Yeah, we need another Chris. I'm going to be able to keep this straight, I swear. All right, so I think the big story this week, and a little bit of a quiet time in the hobby, but the big story this week has got to be the Wembys, or the Wemby and the cousin Wemby getting pulled and coming through PSA. And, I'd be remiss if I didn't speak to Chris Carlin about, from the PSA perspective, is, what do you know? Do you guys get a phone call that somebody's coming with a walkthrough? Do you know the card's coming, or does somebody just knock on the door and say, hey, this card might be worth $1 million. Can I come in?
Yeah, so it's interesting. It can go a variety of different ways because it depends on who pulls the item, right? So traditionally, a lot of the bigger cards are pulled by people who are opening up case after case after case after case, just because law of odds, right? So a lot of those customers are already dealers of ours. So our sales team works with those customers to get those items in. People can now drop off post-pandemic world at PSA headquarters in California or New Jersey, Harborside. But if a regular customer like myself, if I didn't work for PSA, pulled a card like this, I would reach out to the customer care team or PSA, or even if they fill out the sub, we'd probably reach out to them and just talk about ways to make it as easy as possible for the customer there, because we want to be careful with those higher ticket items, right? Any damage, anything like that sustained, we like to keep those items in-house for as little as possible, and get them back to their customer so nothing can go wrong with it, or any damage or anything along those lines happening. So that's kind of the background. And then we do have, obviously events. PSA is at, we're at more events this year than we've been at in a long, long time. And we're doing more drop-off events. We're trying to open our doors and have customers come in again. So we're doing public days where any customer, if you've got a $5 card that you want to submit for value plus service, but you just don't want to put it in the mail because it has sentimental reasons to you, you can drop off with us in person as well. So by getting out there a bit more, we see a lot of those bigger ticket items come in. I'm always blown away. Like when I was at Upper Deck, I knew like you put your cards in your soft sleeves, then your top loaders, or one touch if it's premium, what have you. But I'm blown away by how many times we'll be at a show and an older lady will come up with an envelope and a beautiful Nolan Ryan rookie or something like that in there, and you're like, "What are you doing? Like, let me get this something in a safe space." Like your collector OCDs kicks in, So
isn't that a PSA policy? You throw in a free penny sleeve with every Nolan Ryan rookie?
Yeah. We always have the supplies there too. We hook them up. So there's a variety of ways that things come in, but the shows and events are always where you might catch that like antique roadshow moment where you're like, oh my God, I didn't expect to see this today. So it's kind of amazing what comes in. We have a show that we do in Long Beach, which is really cool. It's a hybrid between coins and cards and banknotes and comics and TCG. Called the Long Beach Expo. So that's 3 times a year. But that is one where I'm always kind of amazed at what comes in. And we live in its close proximity to Los Angeles. We had a guy come in who worked for Harrison Ford and had some amazing, personalized items. But it's always like, wow, like you just don't know what to expect when you're at a show or an event.
How many shows do you actually get to, or does PSA get to a year?
This year, I believe we have close to 30 on the calendar, and some of those are these smaller drop-off events. Where we were just up in the Bay Area at Lefties, and we're going to be doing more of those types of events. We're doing some events that are going to be really cool. If you go to PSA.com/shows, you can see what's coming up. But one of them we're doing in a few weeks is with the Phoenix Suns, where you can drop off before a Phoenix Suns game and we'll be down on the court. You can go throw a quick shot, get a photo op, and then off you go. So we're trying to do more of these types of integrations with teams as well, which is really cool. So after that one, we're going to be doing an event with Washington Capitals and then the Washington Wizards. So a nice little opportunity for us to get to the DC area. So we want to try to be in locations where it makes sense for people to bring in things that just, too worried to put in the mail. For me,
I hear that from a lot of people. Chris Harris, if you pulled that Wemby, what are you doing with it? You telling people?
I'm not telling a soul.
You hiring?
I don't want to get robbed.
You hiring a proxy, or are you going in anonymous?
I'm just going to hold on to it and maybe just wait until the National and sub it then. Nobody needs to know what I have.
Yeah,
that's just me, though.
Do you don't think
Chris,
you don't think the National gets out in 30 seconds?
Oh, of course it'll get out then, but
Chris will be popping bottles in Cleveland at
Yeah, he'll just have the Wemby, in one hand, the champagne in the other. And, right.
Chris, exactly. I used to be like, do you keep things at your home, safety deposit? Do you use vaulting services?
I keep everything at home.
Yeah.
Actually, my collection is kind of, because of moves over the last couple of years, it's been kind of divided. So I only have like a portion of my stuff at home. The other stuff is back in Jersey in storage. So, but I keep it all. I want to look at my cards,
No, yeah, and my wife got nervous about all the stuff that I had. So, I do have stuff in a safety deposit box at a bank that's close by, but I've started to use some of the vaulting services. And, you get inundated with ads from all these different companies that, whether it be PWCC or PSA or eBay. But it is kind of nice where you can just check out your collection on your phone, and then if you want to flip it, you can. But that's been a bit of a stress reliever, not having as much stuff in the house that I used to. I have a lot more of my quirky oddball things around here than the super premium stuff.
You made a comment earlier about trying to get the Wemby out of the out of your hands back to the owner as quick as possible. I assume it's like everybody else. It's the hot potato. Nobody wants to be the one to hurt their cards or damage their cards. So vaulting is another way. I use all three. I use a safety deposit box, the home, and I vault. And the stuff in the vault is stuff that I don't need access to, physically on me, but I definitely want the protection and maybe to flip.
Yeah. I didn't sell much before I came to collectors. You at Upper Deck, you weren't allowed to, sell cards, and that kind of makes sense, right? So, but here you are, and it's kind of fun to, expose myself to things I hadn't been exposed to before with regard to different services and reselling and getting cards that I only bought Upper Deck stuff before, so now I'm buying all sorts of. I actually happen to have Yu-Gi-Oh right there, but all sorts of oddball type items, and it's just it's fun to dive into. But how you need to have a path to liquidity on some of these items, and it is easier to list things on eBay. Like I like how they have AI, doing the descriptions now, because that was always like, oh, I gotta be creative for a minute and draw people in. But the vaulting does allow. What I've liked about it is I can. If I'm on PSA's vaulting service, I can then move it to Golden, and I've been pretty impressed with Golden. I think Golden gets a bum rap sometimes, but some of the technology in place to sell your items quickly is pretty cool. And I've liked a lot of the auctions. PWCC has great auctions too, so it's always fun to be on those right before close. So and then you just keep it in your vault there. So it's interesting.
Cooter says sending it away would be like sending his child to an orphanage. Except you still maintain possession of them, Cooter. If you ever want them to come back home, you get to bring them home.
It's more like sending them to camp or boarding school. I guess it's more like boarding school.
Yeah, exactly. For the cards that deserve it. All right. Well, definitely I want to touch on the Wemby, but we got some more comments. For vaulting safety deposit box usage, is that based on value or the inability to replace the item's scarcity? What's the cutoff of value? I think there's insurance value and then there's value of the item.
Yeah, that sentimental value is always a tricky one, right? Because insurance companies aren't going to pay out on that sentimental value. So for me, a lot of my sentimental items I keep close in a safety deposit box, and then for items that I think might be too pricey to keep at home, or that at some point I might want to flip, I use a vaulting service for, and then for all my oddball weirdo collectibles I keep in the house.
And just to clarify for Silver Fox, the vaulting is a third-party service where a safety deposit box would be between you and the bank, and what you put in there is between you and the bank. So just to clear up if we used the wrong terminology by accident. Okay, so while we're talking Wemby and we're talking hot cards, I know last week they touched on it a little bit. James, very funny. I'm never too early for dad jokes and puns. You can bank on it for your safety deposit box. But while we're talking about cards, I know they touched on Caitlin Clark and Panini last week. I wanted to talk about how Caitlin Clark, I think, has 20 some different autos coming out in the new release. Chris Harris, at what point have we gone too far with parallel autos, or do they have to do what they have to do?
Well, she's hot right now, so you got to do what you got to do. I mean, people want these autographs, and if it means making 20 different autographs. Now, is it 20 different cards, or is it one card and 20 different parallels? I didn't quite.
The way I read was 20 different parallels, but I don't know how many of those are out of, anything higher than a couple. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's a lot of different parallels any way you look at it.
And it kind of devalues having so many of them in there. Just let's suppose you're Panini and you contracted Caitlin Clark to autograph, I don't know, 2,500 cards or something. I don't know. Would it be better to have like a base card in 5 parallels, and the base card is numbered to like 1,500? Well, you probably wouldn't number it that way. Or would you have like a base card that's numbered to 500, but 19 different parallels all numbered below that? What would be more valuable in that?
And this is the Bowman U release. Just to answer the question in the chat. I'm reading the language they're using here. It's between base inserts and autographs, including a one.
I was going to be surprised if they just did it straight in parallels.
Yeah,
that would be pretty lazy, and I know they get grief, but I don't think they would do that with a premium athlete.
Kind of ridiculous. Yeah.
So it's been really interesting watching her growth and tracking her values and seeing the subs come in for her. I like to have something from everything. So she was someone that I was thinking that I might get an autograph of, but they're very expensive, and it's one of those things where on the manufacturing side, when you sign a deal like that, you want to give your customers what they want. You want to bring them close to the game. You want to give them autographs. And is there such thing as too much of a good thing? Well, if you look at what happened with jersey cards in the late 90s, early 2000s, that's exactly what happened. The manufacturers tried to give customers what they wanted, which was, give me more jersey cards. Give me a jersey card in every pack, not just every box. And as that content started to get watered down, then those items lost a lot of their intrinsic value. And I think that's something that the manufacturers need to keep a really close eye on, especially with a premium athlete like Caitlin Clark. But I think Panini will probably do a pretty good job of making sure that what's out there makes sense for the market. You'd always say, and when you're at a manufacturer, every product needs to have a reason for being, and every insert needs to have that. And, if you're creating a technology card or set, that there's technology collectors out there for it. If you're creating something that's, vintage feel, there's vintage customers out there for it. But I think they'll probably make sure that there's a nice mix of content.
How much buzz is there for companies in the hobby when you get a superstar player that creates, whether it's a ton of cards getting graded or the Connor Bedard, with Upper Deck? I mean, what does that do to actually, the people at the company? I mean, is it tangible?
Yeah, like it's when that you have a big athlete coming down the pipe, a generational talent. Like I remember Connor McDavid's, 2 years before he was even drafted, we were making plans for him at Upper Deck. And I'm sure the case was very similar with Connor Bedard. Like before I left 2 years ago, we were talking about him. So, I mean, people always know, especially at the manufacturers, where is who's going to be the next big thing, and how do we sign them, and how do we maximize the opportunities with them? So, and when you're an employee there, it's very fulfilling and exciting. Like one person I love following is Diane Hatley. I think she's Hat Trick Hatley on Twitter, but she works for Upper Deck, but she is a passionate hockey fan. And you can see she's a Blackhawks fan. So you can see from someone who works at a manufacturer how much it means to her to have a premium athlete like Connor Bedard to root for and create content for and make products for.
What's it like at a grading company when you see a new rookie and a new release come out, and then all of a sudden you get bombarded with cards of that player? I'm pretty sure you're getting bombarded with Bedard Young Gun cards right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like
you're seeing, your graders are seeing the same card over and over and over and over again. I mean, it's got to be, I don't know, monotonous to see that.
I don't know. For us, I would say it's the buzz I
Good
feel
problem to have. Don't get me wrong.
is the same type of excitement that you would have from a manufacturer, where we're just as excited to see it too. You know, like a lot of PSA staff are out buying boxes of hobby UD2, and I'm like, hold on, like the prices are going to come down. Like, don't go too crazy. I'm telling you, as someone who knows here, and it's kind of fun for us to see, you know, and we. Again, what's cool about working for a grading service as opposed to a manufacturer is, you know, you can drink the Kool-Aid, you can collect, you can get involved in the hobby more, and it's encouraged because it's only making you smarter about what's going on in the industry. So yeah, a lot of our folks have been really excited about both Caitlin Clark and Connor Bedard, and you need that. Like, you need to have these premium rookies. Like, rookies have always driven the collectibles space, you know, in the modern era, and it's an awesome story to tell when people are lining up to get their cards, you know, outside. I love when you have those pictures at trading card shops where there's a line outside. You know, you don't see that in a lot of other places except for maybe, you know, shoe stores for a launch of a new premium shoe. So I think it's awesome.
I love it. So I want to talk about there's an auction going on right
Well,
now.
Danny, we didn't go too much into the Wemby coming through.
Yeah, we moved right by that, didn't we?
Yeah. So
please talk about the Wemby.
Yeah. So real quick, I just want to, you know, give customers a little more information about what happened there. So we had the card come through. Now, one thing so I'm in charge of the team called the Collectors Concierge team. So when you drop an item off with us, it's my staff. So we teach them not to just look at an item as it's coming in, and same thing for shows and events, but also to use all your senses. You know, what do you smell something with this? Because and it's harder to do on like a show floor than in a controlled space, a smaller room, a grading room. And when you pull the item out, obviously you have an opportunity to do more of that. So there is, you know, work that's done, and some of it's not all just, you know, using your eyes and nose. Some of it's technology, but it's important for us to make sure that we're not, if we sense anything that might be off, we let the grading room know. So smells, odors, chemicals. We see this a lot more on coins. It is interesting to me, you know, getting a larger understanding of the hobby as a whole. The hobby is not just cards, you know, again, it can be coins, it could be art. And in other industries, there is, you know, restoration services you can have done that are considered okay. There's cleaning services that are done that are considered okay. And so that's for art, that's for coins. But in cards, you know, they're so condition sensitive, and they're so unique and niche. You know, what you can do to a card that's going to keep it from being altered it's a fine line. And some of these solutions and chemicals, quite frankly, we don't know what the long-term effects are going to be of using these. You know, every card show I go to, I see 2 or 3 card doctors, you know, selling some different type of kit, and you don't know what's in a lot of those kits. Like, they don't put like, this is 95% water and 2% this, that, or the other. So you got to be very careful about what you're buying there and what you're applying to your prized possessions, because it could be detrimental long term. And that's one of our top concerns, is that, you know, once it's holdered, is there things that did the chemical go into the side of the card, and is that going to create issues with it long term, or is it going to affect the surface over time? So those are the reasons why PSA wants to avoid people applying chemicals or different treatments to their cards. For me, it's always what I use always is, you know, just the good old microfiber cloth, and give it a little wipe down before I put it in a holder for final submission type. But the other thing I think anyone wants to do is avoid just too much handling of a premium card. Like if you're really getting in there and wiping it down or things along those lines, you might be bending the surface. You might be causing a crease. You could be dinging in a corner. So really what's worked best for me is give it a wipe down, put it in a holder, don't touch it again until I'm dropping it off. I try to touch them as little as possible. So what we found when it came through the first time was that there was no evidence of any odors. There wasn't any evidence of wax buildup or anything being applied to the surface that we could easily see. But when this came up, so this happened on Friday where it kind of came up as a thing. And there were concerns as well about the centering. One of the photos didn't really show the centering as well. It kind of showed it from an angle. So, but the centering is right on, like I've seen it. So we have when Nat bought the company a couple of years ago, one thing that he put into place was a core set of values. So if you go to collectors.com values, you could see what we believe in as employees of collectors. And really, again, I think a lot of people are buying into what Nat is doing in the company. And you could tell that by how much more the company is doing than it was, 2 years ago. I think 3 years ago, we did 400,000 cards in a year, and now PSA is doing over 1.2 million. So people are buying into that internally. But one of our core values is get it right. And there was a concern, maybe we didn't get this one right. So on a Sunday afternoon, Ryan Hogue, PSA president, and Ryan gets such a bad rap sometimes in the hobby. People just beat him down, but he's such a good guy. He's dealing with this on Sunday when he's hanging out with his daughters, and he's passionate about getting it right. And so they reached out to the owner on Sunday and Monday, and we're able to get the card back in this week. And that's when he had the picture with the other Wembenyama that was coming through. But we took it out of the holder, re-examined it, looked at if there was anything applied that we could see that was going to cause a problem long-term. And we just didn't see that. We didn't smell that. We didn't have any inkling of issues. And quite frankly, it's a gem mint 10. It's a beautiful card. So I think that we got it right there. So, but I like working for a company where there's some ethics involved and that people are going to try to do their best each day. So I'm glad we made that step to get it right and get it back in and confirm what we kind of knew all along, that it's a gem.
Chris Harris, I grew up where it was okay to put a card in a book, and you would leave it in there to flatten it. And any non-chemical things you do to your cards?
I actually once used a black magic marker on a 71 Topps.
Yeah, I think we've all had
those
gone
black
down
borders
that hole one time.
Yeah. I do have one question for Chris. If you do detect a card that's been obviously polished or buffed or whatever, I mean, it smells, he didn't do a good job buffing all the whatever off. How would you handle that? Do you go ahead and grade that as
we do? It's graded as
or you just return
altered.
it to them?
Yeah,
authentic but altered.
Authentic altered, and it can be either cleaning or restoration that we're seeing. And I watched a really cool video the other day that where a guy had his girlfriend rip a Joe Jackson card, and like it makes me. I like having my stuff slabbed, mostly so my wife can't ever do that to me if I piss her off. But he did that, or she did that, and he had his dad had given it to him, and they were really upset as a family. But he had it sent off to a paper company that was able to reattach it, and now it's in a PSA slab and it's altered. But it's to him, it's very meaningful. So yeah, I think that there are there's always people that say, "Would you own a card that says altered on it?" And it depends on the story behind the card. Every card is a story, and it depends on what you collect and how much you want it. So, yeah, I would have no issue owning something like that if there's a cool story tied to it.
Chat room's going a little nuts. So, Chris Carlin, I'm going to throw a couple questions at you. When is PSA coming out with their own branded microfiber claws?
Oh, you know what's so funny? This is hilarious. So I'm such a nerd for the companies I work for. So when it was Upper Deck, like if there was an Upper Deck sports bar, like I'd go there or things like that. But this is a PSA microfiber cloth, but it's for a company called Pay Some Attention. So I'm gonna blow your guys' mind right now. Pay Some Attention is a fashion company, and these are women's glasses, but I had to have them because they say
that's
PSA
awesome.
on the side. So with your PSA glasses, you get the PSA microfiber cloth. But yeah, we will have. I've been talking with our marketing team about doing some microfiber cloths. We have already got things like PSA razor blades and other hobby supplies. But yeah, that's my funny PSA story. The other PSA.
And this is a question I've heard from a lot of people. For uncirculated cards, redemptions, something with a top seal, or tops now sometimes, should they remove the card from the top loader with the sticker when they send it in for grading, or leave it as is?
No, a lot of the Project 70 cards and things like that, those types of things. Leaf does some as well, where it's got the seal on the outside. No, you can send them in just like that. The only reason why we ask for people to put it in a soft sleeve and Card Saver 1 is they're good storage devices, and they're fairly inexpensive. So we just don't have a way to return people's magnetic touches or things like that. So yeah, those are perfectly fine to send in that way.
Okay. And Victor, the rookie card specialist, says, "Hello, Chris. Glad you're back. There appears to be different interpretations to the PSA press release. Is there a chance that PSA will give a more detailed explanation as to what is and is not allowable?"
Yeah, I don't even think that it's a press release. I mean, just read Ryan Hogue's comments on it from Twitter. It's don't put chemicals on cards. Don't if we detect it, it's going to be altered. So it's pretty simple as that.
And that pretty much, Orlando says Kurt's card should be considered altered. He adds chemicals. Without calling anybody out, I think it's clear that chemicals are no. And that's been brought up several times now.
Well, and Kurt did a long video. He's done a few videos kind of responding, and he's got some things that are kind of like what I was saying. He's like, it's allowable in art, it's allowable in coinage. Why can't it be allowable in cards? And it would be nice for PSA to say it's cool, but again, we can't, because we just don't know what the long-term effects of some of these unknown chemicals are going to be to the items. And unlike some grading services, one thing that I've been blown away by is that PSA has a guarantee, but they actually really stand behind it. So it's a grade guarantee. Once an item's in a PSA slab, it's guaranteed. So if there's ever any questions about its authenticity, about it maybe being over or undergraded, things along those lines, I've seen Nat cut checks that are pretty significant for those. Is we want to clean up the market and make sure that everything out there in a PSA holder is exactly what customers expect. So if it's ever not, the company steps up and takes care of it. So for us, again, it's important that we get it right when it goes in those holders.
And I think following up again, just asking for maybe a video from PSA after the Wemby situation, making it very clear, maybe in video form, what is allowed and what is considered altered. Thank you, Abel. Appreciate that idea.
Yeah, that's actually something I'm going to be doing in my new role, is just giving out little tips and tactics on submitting with PSA and what to do, what not to do. Like something that people do all the time that really slows up your submission and other people's submissions is they'll include Post-its on their card that's going in, or they'll include it's like a little sign here tab to pull on the soft sleeve. But for us, when we're imaging it, we have to slow it down a little bit and remove those and what have you. And our team in terms of getting items in and out of holders, that's what they do all day. So they don't need any extra assistance or or a Post-it on the card that says, "This is totally a 10. Give it to me, baby." Things like that. So save that for a letter if you want to include it, but don't put any substances on or items on the cards.
That's very funny. I didn't know people. Do a lot of people write "Give me 10s" and stuff like that and think it's going like right to a grader who's going to say,
it's so
sure.
Interesting, Danny, that I'm trying to get more of the content from our receiving department. But a lot of it, the reason why I've been talking with them more is a lot of it has been really complimentary type things or kids drawing pictures, about how excited they are to get their card back and graded. So that's kind of cool to see.
You don't see like submissions with like $100 bills attached.
There are those, and those are returned in the condition received. Yeah, what was really funny to me when I came to PSA and worked my first national was how many times people tried to tip me, and I assumed it was because my service was so good, like I was really able to help them, but I don't, we just don't take that. So
is it a tip or is it a bribe?
That's what it calls into question. So we are pretty good about saying no to that, but at the same time, we're very good at saying no, but making the customer know that we're just here to help. We're already compensated. So
somebody wrote, "I just received the submission back. One card came back minimum size. They were charged but not slabbed. Is there still an option of slabbing minimum size?
Jeff, reach out to me on Twitter on that. I'm at Pete Incaviglia, INCAVIGLIA, and just give me a follow and I'll DM you.
That is such a great Twitter handle.
We all love the Twitter handle.
I got on Twitter really back early in the day before there were even celebrities on it, and I never even thought that Pete Incaviglia was my favorite player growing up because he would either strike out or hit it to the moon. And he may or may not have dabbled in performance enhancers. I don't know. But I do know that he gave me a lot of entertainment in my childhood. So when I got on Twitter, I was like, yeah, I'll be Pete Incaviglia. But one of my favorite collectibles, I've got it subbed to be slabbed, is a signed photo from him that says "nice Twitter handle." So I've offered it to him before, but I don't think he wants to be a Twitter guy.
All right. I think we are done with cleaning cards for now. I want to talk about, because this is driving me nuts. Maybe I'm the only one. There is a Reggie Jackson 1976. It is a Pop 11. So
yeah.
Let me just be upfront with that. But the last one sold, I think, for $40,000. I mean, it's what, a 7th year Reggie? His last year in Oakland, I get it, but $40,000. There's so many other cards I'd rather buy for $40,000. There's combinations of cards I'd rather buy for $40,000. Chris Harris, I mean, is this something you understand? Is it just for set collectors? A couple people.
It's probably someone trying to assemble an all PSA 10 set. That's really the only explanation, because you said, 76 tops really isn't. It's not 75 tops. Let's put it that way.
Nothing 75.
It is Pop 11, but still $40,000 just for one card to build your set. That seems a little over the top, but you know what? It's not my money.
Yeah,
I'm not collecting a PSA 10 set of that anytime soon.
It gets competitive, right? Like for some of those folks in the set registry who want to beat their buddies, right? So we see a lot of talk in our chats on that about certain collectors trying to beat so and so, but. Reggie had that documentary that came out recently for Amazon, which was pretty good. And Michael Jordan saw a spike after that, but I don't think this is tied to that. I think it's more set registry type of line. So
yeah,
$40,000 is a lot of money. I mean,
I think our shopping lists, each of us would look a little different than that one person's, but
I'd at least start doing the shot to lose weight or something, So John Keating says the set registry is for insecure people seeking validation from others. Full stop.
I don't know. I met a lot of these
Good to hear from
really
Keating.
good collectors.
It is a bit of a
They're passionate.
measuring contest, if you know what I mean. But
you know what? As somebody who does well in the Maddox registry, rookie registry, but not on the others, I'll tell you I like some of it and not others.
Yeah, there's aspects. We've got some really cool stuff that's going to be happening for PSA set registry over the next year. Just a lot of the same things that we've done to improve the submission process, or those types of efforts are going to be put into set registry. So one thing I've been blown away since I've been here is just how much tech oriented PSA is and collectors is, and a lot of the things that we're doing are making the process easier and actually kind of a little bit fun for collectors, where we launched just a week and a half ago an option where you can use your phone to take an image of the card, and it actually recognizes that, fills out the submission part of that card for you if it's the right image, and you're done. So we've been using that at shows. I know they're using it at the Chicago Sports Spectacular this weekend. But a lot of those efforts will be refocused now that the submission process is pretty painless, to improve some things on the set registry side for sure.
That's awesome. And I know a lot of people are asking, so I'm required to ask by law, is there going to be a combined PSA SGC set registry anytime soon?
Not anytime soon. Right now, again, we're just we're just letting SGC be SGC and PSA is PSA. And it's the one thing that I think has been nice about this acquisition is SGC used to spend a lot of money trying to fight PSA and show why they're better than PSA, and now it's just you do you, and PSA does PSA, and I think it'll be good for the hobby for right now for sure.
And Chris, I got to ask you, because everybody is asking me in the chat, what's the stance of PSA on drops of water?
Again, we don't want anything applied to a card. Again, there's what my first job at Upper Deck actually was applying alcohol to trading cards. What had happened was an athlete had signed the front of a card using the wrong pen, and the signatures bled to the back of the card. So it was me and two other guys. I'm wearing a suit. They're wearing cutoff jeans, and we have alcohol and Q-tips, and we're applying it to the card and cleaning it off. But what they taught me while I was doing that is do not get it on the sides of the cards, because it will ruin the cards. The front and back have UV coating. The sides do not. So I think that you need to be careful putting anything on a card, like really careful, especially if it's a chemical or solution that you don't know what it is.
All right. Thank you for clearing that up. Orlando says PSA sent him pins for his registry sets.
Yeah, the pin stuff is pretty cool. They've been trying to make the experience better for people who are really immersed in the set registry. One thing that we did really cool last year at the set registry party at the National was they actually had commissioned artwork done of people's PCs, their favorite card in their PCs. So that was kind of cool. So there'll be more and more of that throughout the next few years for sure.
Chris Harris, where are you putting your 40 grand if it's not into a Reggie Jackson?
probably into some 90s baseball inserts. Maybe finally finishing off my run of Donruss Elites from that era.
Okay.
So,
Are you a Diamond Kings guy going a little older?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
see, I'm spending it a little differently. I'm buying
going?
25 different Caitlin Clark autographs, but that's just me. That's just where I'm.
Yeah. All right. Now, one thing that I've noticed in the hobby, and I wanted to get both of your opinions about, is I think to grow the hobby, whether it's coming from fanatics or collectors or Panini, the idea of growing the hobby, we're all kind of on the same page, and Asia is a huge market opening up. Well, it's been a huge market, but now it's opening up a little bit easier to get cards back and forth and to get them into the grading companies. I know that's been, if Korean Cardboard is in the chat room, I'd love to hear his stories. But Chris Carlin, some of that's going to be changing.
Yeah, there's a few things going on. I mean, if you pay attention to the hobby news, you'll see that there's more grading services that are expanding their operations to overseas. One of the tricky things in terms of getting items in and back is the government and just where you're at. So in China, it's really difficult to get items out of the country and get them back in, especially if it's coins or banknotes. They don't want those leaving. So it's tricky. And then, if you're in Canada, sometimes there's customs and duties that you have to pay on items and things along those lines. So it doesn't even value out sometimes setting them in. So PSA's had a big focus on expanding our operations internationally. We've got David Adams operating with us out of the Netherlands. We've got Brad at PSA Canada up in Canada. But the biggest thing that we've done, this year is launch an operation in Japan, a fully a standalone grading company in headquarters out of Japan. So that was really cool because for me to see the start of that was pretty amazing, where we flew graders out here and had them staying and working with us for months on months on months and making sure they understood our standards and they were getting it right as well. And to see them standing up now and able to provide, if you look at the population reports, pretty much spot on what we're doing here, has been awesome to see. And what we saw too is that, there were a lot of submissions coming from Japan, but now making it easier for them to not have to ship out of the country, and they would have to wait a long time in order to get items done. So as we all know in this game, like, you don't want to wait too long for your items because things happen with athletes, i.e. Wander Franco and Ben Simmons and whoever else you want to throw in there. Like, you want to be able to make decisions with it quickly and not have it tied up for too long. So opening the services in Tokyo was a big deal for us and continues to be, especially as TCG continues to grow. But one thing I'm really excited about is tonight I'm actually flying out to Seoul with my family. We're going to take in the Padres and Dodgers out there. My wife, her father was a Marine colonel, and she grew up in Seoul, Korea from ages 9 to 13. And my boys are 10 and 12 right now. So we're going to go out there and she's going to be able to show them, a little bit where she spent her time growing up and causing trouble. I'm surprised she wasn't involved in an international incident in her youth there. But hopefully we don't have one with Dodger fans out there. But it'll be fun to take in games and show the kids where she grew up. But what I'm excited about is connecting with one of my counterparts for PSA out there, and she's going to take us to Hobby Korea, which is a trading card store, but they also do toys and other things in Seoul. And I don't know if you guys are the same way as I am, but I love going to different cities and I always try to pick out a hobby shop wherever I'm going to, because they're all different, right? And that's what makes hobby shops so special and unique. And so I'm excited to see what it's like in Korea. So I'll be posting a lot of pictures about that, but excited again to just see what the excitement levels are there. I'm bringing a lot of Ha-Seong Kim cards, a lot of Otani cards to give away and share with kids, and just see if the hobby is as strong there as it is here. So it'll be fun to see.
Quick question: Will those cards be slabbed? Have any difference to the cards slabbed in the States?
No, same.
Identical.
It's the same operation. Like, one thing that Nat Turner has done an incredible job of is bringing on people with strong operational skills to scale the business and make a lot of process improvements along the way. I know you'll always see on Twitter, like, they screwed up the flips misspelled, or this card was damaged. But what I'm seeing in terms of we're grading more, but we're seeing damages and errors going way, way down. So operational efficiency is something that, because of the talent he's brought on, is something that we're seeing improvements on all the time. But it allows us to do the same thing we do in Santa Ana as we do in Harborside as we do in Tokyo. And that will be our blueprint for future expansion for sure.
Chris Harris, you look like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I'm curious, but if I were in Japan and if I submit to PSA Tokyo, would I be able to get the label in Japanese characters or only in English?
Yeah, we're keeping it uniform for right now. There are those times when there are, you have a special collection come through and you want to give them some type of pedigree status. So if someone had Japanese characters in their name, that would be something that we would be open to doing. But at this time, we want to keep everything, standardized. So.
Right.
Kind of like what I always, I used to be a big Ruth Chris fan when I was in my 20s and 30s. I never had steak until my 18th birthday. And my parents took me to Ruth Chris and I was like, I was so pissed, you guys. I was like, how have you kept this from me all my life, But what I was always blown away by is if I went to Ruth Chris in Cleveland or in Irvine, California, or in New York, the experience was pretty much the same. The food was pretty much the same. And that's our goal at PSA, is to make the experience the same throughout.
John King says Ruth's Chris shoestring fries are on point, and I'm going to second that with the barbecue.
Don't handle cards after them.
I'll say the barbecue shrimp, and then you got to take the bread and dip up the.
The sauce.
Yeah, sauce. Yeah. Anyway, it was fun when I was younger and didn't have kids and could do that. Dylan Davis is known for his great grading eye. He does a wonderful YouTube channel. Chris, do they have teams of people nervous over at PSA about Double D's eye and his grading coming into the market?
No.
Dylan, you do a great job on cards. Everybody check out Dylan on Whatnot. He does a great job, and he does have a great eye.
No, I know. Yeah. So, I appreciate what you do for the hobby. That's for sure.
All right. You guys pick up any cards this week or anything new? I'd like to show off too. I am collecting.
I'm going to a card show tomorrow in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So,
which one is that? Fishtown?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to make it up there.
I kind of find it weird that they scheduled it at this time because the Philly show was last weekend. So,
well, for those of us that couldn't make it, I am doing multi-sport athletes. So I'm starting off with just a couple basics from childhood, and a little Dion, little Bo. I've got and Babe Diedrichson. I can't remember if I showed last time.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, 1936 Olympia.
Yeah, I picked up a couple things too. One thing that is interesting that collectors did this year is they did a holiday trading card, but they did a few different versions. So very similar to what Upper Deck does and Topps does on occasion is a employee card. So this year you received 2 different employee cards, but some of them are actually signed by Nat Turner, which is kind of cool. So if you're looking for those out there on the eBay land, it's 2023 Collectors Holiday Employee Exclusive, which is kind of cool. I got this Jesper, but I love that he's wearing that Upper Deck hat. What I loved at Upper Deck at the time when golf came out is we sponsored Jesper, and you could see he's got that horrible hat, but we actually would give those hats out. I remember so fondly in 2001 giving out those Jesper hats, and even wearing one. There might be a terrible picture of me out there with one, but it was kind of defined that generation of early golf collecting. And then, when I see this at a card show, I'm buying it. Mostly because you think about the grader that had to really get in there and look at Chris Farley's belly back in the day. But That was a
I
good
mean,
one.
if they find lint, does that come off surface?
Yeah. And then I like a lot of oddball stuff. So here's a Eddie Van Halen that I just got at a card show recently. But here's my one thing that I know it's not necessarily in all our wheelhouses, but one thing I'm seeing a huge interest in, and there's a Netflix show and there's like a million different cartoons on this. But I watched the Netflix live action show with my kids, and it was pretty good and entertaining. And I think this is going to be a huge, huge, huge property for like the next 5 to 10 years. And it's still early, is One Piece. So One Piece is a show about this pirate kid who is destined to be the king of the pirates. And he isn't the king of the pirates yet, but it's all this long progression to get him there. And it's rather entertaining. It's a little bit Marvel-esque. It's a little bit it's a lot of manga inspired interest. So there's like veiled sexuality and weirdness there too, but it's fun. So I think that property in particular, I've been buying a lot of One Piece cards. I'm trying to buy the more premium ones because I think it's one that is kind of like it's hard to be able to get into a Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon before they really take off. And this is one that I don't see slowing down. And we're definitely seeing continued, growth in that from on the grading side. Like it is the hotness right now. So,
John Keating wants to know if that's a pump and dump, Chris. Have you bought them all?
No. I mean, God, maybe a little bit to hang on, but the problem is like I'm getting into the show now, and my kids are into it too. So I don't know. I think we're going to hang on to these for a while because they're kind of fun. Like my son's your Netflix picture is now Luffy from One Piece, so it's like I may have got into it initially for pump and dump, but now I'm like, hold.
That's hysterical. All right, guys. Well, thank you. This flew by.
Wow. It's almost noon.
Yeah, it's almost noon. It's time for you to go take your mom.
Yeah.
It was great hanging with you guys. Good talking the hobby again. And good seeing you again, Chris. I haven't seen you in a bit.
Yeah.
Chris, good to have you back. And Chris Harris, good to see you, buddy.
Same here.
All right. To everybody else, every Saturday morning, 11 a.m., and you can find us on Hobby Hotlines channel, and then the podcast will also, Bench Clear and Hobby Hotline, and then the audio comes out on Hobby Hotline during the week. So thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Take care, guys. Happy St. Pat's to all who celebrate.
Chris Harris.
Keep rocking in the free world, folks.
That's right.
See ya.